This is the story that taught me as a man you should always have some money. Man is never supposed to be broke. You should always have something in you. Alright, so this goes back to the 90s, the mid-90s, my teenage years. It used to be a spot in Atlanta called Frozen Palace. Frozen Palace was one of those spots to where, man, listen, ooh, it used to be going down. One particular night, me and one of my boys wanted to go hang out, but we didn't have no money, so we decided we would go parking lot pimping. Now, for those of y'all that don't know, parking lot pimping is when you go hang out in the parking lot and you can pretty much catch the same ladies that was in the club once they coming out and going in. All right. This night, I happened to be looking clean, even though I didn't have no money in my pocket. Started talking to a young lady after the club. She decided, hey, I'm playing what you're saying. What you trying to do? Now, I played it smooth, being that I had rolled with my homeboy, and this was way before the song No Scrubs had come out by TLC, so I was in the clear. Told old girl, hey, I rolled with the homie. She was like, oh, that's perfect. It's cool. I drove. You want to come home with me? Yeah, I sure would. I would love to. So, get to her house, one thing leads to another. And she asked me that very important question that you want a woman to ask you before sex. If you want to get an idea of how clean or how much she respects herself, you want to hear these words. Do you have a condom? I didn't. So I tried to play it off. Now, I wasn't trying to hit Shawty raw or nothing. I had just met her in a club parking lot 2 hours prior. That would have been a terrible idea. But I'm also trying to play off the fact that I don't have no money to go get none. So I was like, well, shoot, I would go grab some, but I ain't driving. She was like, oh, that ain't no issue. Here go the keys. It's a corner store up the street. Matter of fact, it might be a Chevron. They will sell you a box of condoms. I'm gonna shower and I'll be waiting on you when you get back. And then she took off her shirt to kind of show me the incentive of like, hey, you see these titties? They can be yours. Just go get them condoms. But I ain't had no money for no box of condoms. So I'm like, okay, cool. Well, maybe I could just go get me a single. And just smash out at one good time and rock out. I say, yeah, okay. So she throw me the keys and I'm still standing there. She was like, what you waiting on? I was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, let me go out here and look and shout the car. I know this trifling, but I'm like, all right, well, maybe she got like $1 change. I could just get me a little Lucy. No luck. Searched in the car. It wasn't enough to buy no condom. It's 2 o'clock in the morning at this point. I'm like, the odds of me hanging out in front of this store and asking somebody for some condom fail, they gonna be like, bruh, huh? So after about 30 minutes, I drove off, tried to play it off. So I drove off, hung out for probably about 20 minutes, and I drove back to the house. She was like, what's up, you ready? You got the condom? I was like, man, they ain't even had none. Shawty looked at me, she was like, you ain't got no money, do you? And there was one time I thought telling the truth would set me free. Oh, it did. I was like, nah. She was like, so you mean to tell me you ain't even got $1 to buy a loose condom? I was like, nah. She took a long look at me. She says, baby, I ain't gonna be able to give you none of this pussy if you can't afford no condom. Nah. Have a good night. But I had to call the homie to come pick me up. When I tell you this nigga laughed, I'm talking about he laughed. If anybody from Atlanta, old girl lived out in the Claremont area. We had to go back to East Point. This joker laughed from Claremont all the way to 166. So the moral of the story, ever since that day, I might not be rich, I might not have a lot of money, but I always got at least $1 in